We have some very, very interesting people tonight. I'm so proud and so happy that they can stay up past their bedtime to join us. We have, first of all, I want to start with a message from President Jennifer. So I'm going to attempt to get it going. So should I share my screen first, Miss Naomi?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, my button went away. Okay. Oops, wrong one.
Greetings, my Rotary family.
Can you hear it?
World Polio Day is always a wonderful opportunity to take note of our incredible
see
progress
it?
and to talk about the final steps necessary to end polio now. But this year, it's special. Polio has returned to the headlines, and it's again striking fear. We know that the whole world is watching, and while we don't want anyone to live in fear, we should be grateful for this focus. We know that if the polio virus exists anywhere, it threatens children everywhere. This fact inspires your continuing hard work, dedication, donations, and advocacy. We're on the brink of eradicating polio because of you, and I want to thank you for it. And I want to add a special thank you to the people on the front lines, everyone working to vaccinate children in Pakistan. I had the opportunity to meet some of them during my recent visit, and I want to share with you a little bit of that experience.
आप इसका हाउस नंबर
I just want to take an opportunity while I'm here with all of you to say thank you. What you're doing is incredibly powerful, meaningful, life-saving work. We're so close to polio being gone, and it's because of you that we're going to cross the finish line, and we're going to make sure every child is protected. So thank you. From one woman to another, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you.
I'm so inspired by these amazing healthcare workers, and I hope they inspire you too. So please, donate your money, donate your time, and keep reminding everyone you know that the fight is theirs too. Together, let's give this amazing gift to the children of the world.
Quite impressive, wouldn't you say? And that's what we do. Uh-oh. Who has fungus feet? Okay, sorry about that, guys. Murphy's Law. Since we have some late risers or some late people here, I am going to dismiss right now with the formalities until later, because as I said before, it is way past Michael and Brenda's bedtime, and I'm just so happy they decided just to spend some time with us. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Michael McGovern. Michael McGovern joined Rotary in 1986 as a member of the Rotary Club of South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Maine, USA. He has served in many roles: District 7780 Governor, District Foundation Chair, Rotarian Action Group Chair, International Training Leader, Vice President of Rotary International 2007-8, and more and more and more and more. He is past Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of Rotary International and past Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Rotary Foundation. Currently, he is the Chair of the International Polio Plus Committee and represents Rotary on the Polio Strategy Committee of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Michael is just returning from the World Health Summit in Berlin, where the announcement of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was made on the 16th of October. So Michael, thank you for being with us. We're excited to hear what you have to share with us.
Thank you very much, Roz. It's wonderful to be with you. Aloha to all of you in Hawaii this evening. Yeah, Roz just mentioned that I was in Berlin last week, Germany, and it wasn't only the Gates Foundation, it was what they call a pledging event. And Ian Risley was there, the trustee of the Rotary Foundation. He announced so officially what President Jen had announced unofficially at an event in New York, that Rotary is pledging over the next 3 years another $150 million of money that we hope that Rotarians continue to give, $50 million a year. And what happened was, when that happened, Chris Elias, who's the head of global development for the Gates Foundation and actually controls a lot of their money in terms of his area, he got up and thanked Ian Risley and said that they would be matching that 2 to 1 for the next 3 years as well. Basically saying, you know, in all of the pledging that occurred, about $2.5 billion from a lot of different governments, that Rotary was going to be responsible for $450 million of it. But you know, that begins with, you know, the contributions of all of you. It sounds like a big number, but you know, why don't I'll stop my slides here. And you know, I look at this. Here we go. You know, I use this picture of a ladder, step ladder. And if you think of a ladder, you know, we were the foundation of the whole effort in the world to end polio. We were sort of in at the bottom of the ladder back when there were 350,000 cases a year. And, you know, we've slowly stepped up the ladder to total eradication of polio worldwide. You know, as this thing they're painting says. But, you know, if you, those of you that are on a step ladder know, you know, as you go higher, there's warning signs. You know, be careful. Watch the next step. Don't go up any more steps. You know, Rotary doesn't stop. And we're not going to stop until we're at the top of the ladder. Sometimes, you know, you can't go to the top step, though. But in order to reach the height that you want, which is no polio, sometimes you need to raise the base. You need to take the bottom of the ladder and put it up on a little bit of a stage to get you higher and to get you closer. And my view is right now, you know, despite, you know, we're up a few more cases of the wild polio virus this year. That's not good, really bad for the families involved. We're up, you know, a little bit with the so-called vaccine-derived polio. I think overall, we are in fact closer to eradicating polio than at any time in the history of the world. You know, almost all, you know, all due to Rotary itself beginning things. And, you know, the number one humanitarian priority now for years, as a result of votes by the council legislation and boards of directors of Rotary, foundation trustees, is that the global eradication of polio remains a number one priority here on World Polio Day and any day. So, you know, we've done some strategic planning, and, you know, the strategy gets updated every 3 or 4 years. And we're now operating on a strategy document that covers the years 2022 to 2026. And there's 2 goals: permanently eliminate the wild polio virus in all endemic countries. Basically, that means Afghanistan and Pakistan now, and stop circulating, sorry for the acronym, stop circulating vaccine-derived polio virus in present outbreaks in non-endemic countries. We had a case last year in Malawi, we've had cases in Mozambique, and we also have something called these circulating vaccine-derived cases, which I'll talk about in a minute. But if you look at the timeline, you know, the goal is to have no more wild polio virus cases. You know, in essence, do away with the endemic portion of polio by the end of 2023, and also to have the last of these circulating vaccine-derived cases reported. You know, if that happens by the end of 2026, we hope to certify the world as free of the wild polio virus. That's been the goal for, decades now. And then to validate the absence of these these circulating vaccine-derived polio cases. And then you look beyond. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but beyond that, you change the types of vaccines that you use. So eventually, you're only using the injectable, inactivated polio vaccine, so you don't have the possibility of these spreads. And some of the criteria might change. As the note at the bottom says that they're talking about it, but we really don't know. It's more than ever, it's all working together. We're going to end polio. Jennifer mentioned the frontline workers. They are the absolute key. They're down. You looked at those photos. I've been on similar streets. You might have noticed the security guards in the background, with their guns over their shoulders. Some of it's not a safe area they work. And in fact, we had a polio worker for the government, a man actually in Afghanistan, get into his car, I think on Friday, and there was a mine went off, and he lost his legs and is in the ICU. So, it's not safe work. So, together it's all of us. It's our donations. It's those workers. It's the governments that give money. It's UNICEF, WHO, and the other partners. And but people, they like the fact. They're very appreciative of the fact that we've had 20 million children. People walking on Earth who otherwise would be paralyzed hadn't been for this effort. But Rotarians wonder, what are you doing now? It's nice to know that that we made all this progress, but what's happening now? And that's really what I'm going to talk about today. And I was stunned when I saw this number. I knew we'd been setting aside money to actually buy vaccine, but when I saw that, really since the pandemic began, this is July 1 of 2020, a little bit after, until June 30 of this past year, we had spent enough money giving money to UNICEF primarily, so that Rotarians, invested in 391 million doses of polio vaccine. To me, that's where things happen. It's making that happen. We also had these vaccine-derived outbreaks. People get that who don't get vaccines at all. They have low immunity systems, and we're trying to snuff out those cases. And the way you do it is you provide national immunization days, vaccine programs, where you try to go to those communities. And it's been expensive, about $75 million that was spent trying to get these outbreaks. 6 years ago, we didn't even have these outbreaks. They came upon us a bit of a surprise, and it was basically because the immunization rates went down in countries, and quite frankly, some of what they call polio campaigns, the efforts weren't as good as they could have been. And and that's just the amount Rotary has spent. The other partners have also spent money. Some of this money went to what we call social mobilization, primarily convincing parents of the importance of providing vaccines to the children. In essence, not that they're that anti-vaccine, but some of them, you just don't see the importance of it. And we also, when we had these cases in Malawi and Mozambique, we wanted to address that. Most of the money we're spending, by the way, we spent 300 million altogether, 150 million each year, and these are 2 years. But 123 million of it, about 25%, if my math is quick, is what we've spent in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Most of that money has actually gone to, we give it to WHO and UNICEF, but most of it's gone to pay those workers, those women that you saw in the video, that they only make about $5 a day. It's not a whole lot of money, but in their countries, it's important. And but we have millions of workers. The last time when the trustees met, actually about a week ago, they approved funding beyond this amount that will fund in Pakistan the total operational cost of one of these National Immunization Day. That vaccinates 55 million children under the age of 5. And so often you hear about Gates funding this and Gates funding that. What Rotary is really doing is funding the operations. We're funding, where I call it rubber hits the road. where the drops actually get into the mouths. So very important. And, the government's there, and in Pakistan, they've changed the government. They had a vote of no confidence in the prime minister and threw him out, though people might want him back. But, it's a politically unstable area. But regardless, the government there in Pakistan cooperated. And I'll go into it a little bit more, but the de facto government in Afghanistan, the Taliban also works with us. In Pakistan, there's been results. It's it's now down into the red areas of where we've seen cases in the year 2022. There's about 29 cases of the wild polio virus this year. There, all but I think 3 of them are all in one community that only has 25,000 children under the age of 5. So, this genetic clusters that are listed, on this particular slide. This is a slide from the World Health Organization, and it's really significant. You had all these families of viruses in the year 2020. There were 11 of them in Pakistan. And really, you can see the progress. We're down to one family of viruses. It's the same virus that's spreading, and all the other families of viruses have been knocked out. We used to talk about type 1, type 2, and type 3. Now we're talking about families of viruses. And, this shows great progress. We had a little bump. The environmental samples went down where they found the poliovirus. It bumped up a little, but, the latest report in the last few weeks is going down again. Afghanistan's been fascinating. The Taliban took over there in a year ago, August, and we were really worried. They weren't exactly pro-vaccine publicly, and they wouldn't allow any house-to-house vaccines. And really, to deliver the polio drops, again, as you saw in the video, you go house to house. You put the drops in, you paint the pinkies purple, and we even fund $6,000 worth of purple pinky markers that were funded this past week. So we do it all, but 80% of the children in Afghanistan are now being reached through house-to-house vaccination. All of the green area in the map, which is tremendous. And in the other areas, the beige or whatever it is, orange, we're getting more and more house-to-house access there all the time. It's only like 10%, but village by village, district by district, we're picking it up. And a lot of that comes through negotiation with local leaders. You think of government, particularly the Taliban, it's all top down, but it's not. It's there's all sorts of these pockets of different people who make decisions, and it's all heading in the right direction. And but the other interesting thing I find about this map is there's one little red spot at the bottom, towards the bottom of the map. That is the only place in Afghanistan where there's a ban on vaccinations. So it's amazing how this has turned around, the cooperation we're getting. And I happened to see the health minister of Afghanistan in November. He was visiting Pakistan, so we met with a group of us who were there. And basically his message was, we love our children. Therefore, we're going to do the vaccinations. We believe in it. We still have some risk in Afghanistan and Pakistan. We've had some floods in Pakistan. You might have read about the news, and that concerns because there's still areas underwater, and that's a pop. Just like cholera, polio spreads the same types of way. It's people defecate in the water or whatever, and it's got flooding. It spreads out more, and that's a worry. And there's still areas that are bad. That we got elections again, next year. The old prime minister is trying to get back in office, and the new one wants to stay in office, and it's never good in Pakistan, because at all levels, there's sometimes people try to use the polio program for political leverage, in some of the local races and those things. And there's security issues there with ISIS. They don't like the Taliban type groups, particularly in Afghanistan, and there's groups in Pakistan as well. But we've had this SKP is Southern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It's that red area there. It's we worry that it could circulate there, but what this map shows is case probability. And when you look at this in all the blue areas, they think there's barely any possibility of polio coming back. It's the red areas that are concerned. And, and this shows, I think, I can't see it, it's covered up, but, through about mid-year next year. But, if we continue to get access improvements, we continue to really deal effectively with Southern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that red area in the middle, it's definitely possible that things will move forward. We also have this new oral polio vaccine, the novel oral polio vaccine. It's being used in 23 countries now, over 500 million doses, a lot of which Rotary has paid for. That was part of the 391. And, this is something that's still under an early use license, just as our COVID vaccines are. And what it's shown is in 20 of the 23 countries, the first time they used it, they haven't seen any breakthrough cases. And, they essentially shut down the circulating vaccine-derived cases. We still have real issues, though, in northern Nigeria because of poor immunization rates, in south central Somalia, in eastern the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in northern Yemen, where there's a war going on. And we try to negotiate with those groups, we meaning the partnership. But those areas are would keep me awake at night for not only for getting the polio drops there, but that and meetings in Hawaii in the evening keep me awake at night too. But this is actually more serious. But anyway, so we really need to strengthen surveillance. The laboratories, getting the samples to the laboratories and transporting them. And that's a lot we do. But overall, because this new vaccine is more genetically stable, we think it's going to shut down the prevalence that we're seeing of these vaccine-derived cases. It's still going to take a while in countries, but it's really narrowing down. Sudan, for instance, was just they declared an outbreak over there, and there's all these countries where there's an outbreak. So, that's all good news. We also are trying to keep Africa polio free. I think some of you may be aware, Africa a few years ago, after some cases in Nigeria, was declared as polio free. And, you could see the amount of about almost 47 million we invested to make sure Africa stays polio free. And, this is, as the slide indicates, it's all part of our overall effort. We had some meetings last week with some of the African officials of the World Health Organization, and they talk a good ball game, but I think all of us really want to see a continued concerted effort, and there's been a good response in Mozambique and Malawi, but Zimbabwe is right next to it. They haven't even started national immunization days with the outbreaks that have happened so close to their border. It's on the Zambezi River. So while most of it's good, it's this investment we need to keep making and buying the vaccines and dealing with the outbreaks, and working with our partners to keep Africa polio free. That's mainly what we're focused on now. There's a lot of issues about what the heck's going on with a case in Jerusalem. It was actually in Bethlehem. In that area was in Palestine. The Palestinian officials and the Israeli officials are working close together, which is interesting, to make sure that they address it and they improve their immunizations there. You look at this map of England. The darker colors in this case. Again, they're bad. They're just not immunizing the teens and the younger people. And even though they're using the IPV, not the oral polio vaccine, it just shows how someone who got oral polio vaccine could go into the country and secrete it, and people unvaccinated at all could pick it up. We haven't had any cases there, but we worry about it. The United Kingdom, I said freshly to a group today, if they spent more time on making sure the kids were immunized and changing prime ministers, would be a little better off. So sometimes I do these things. It's some days aren't good, with polio eradication. So we have to see the humor in a little bit of it at times. But it is very serious work. The New York thing, kind of weird. It's a 29-year-old male. He lives in Rockland County, in a community again that has very poor immunization rates. That's the only case there. But they've done environmental samples, and it's spread north up into Orange County. and the other county, Sullivan, also right into the city and out onto Long Island. And what's interesting is the guy never traveled anywhere, the 29-year-old male. The first, well, did he go to Pakistan? Did he go to Africa? Did he go where? He didn't go to any of those places. He was at home in Rockland County, and polio came to him. So, when we say that polio is only plane ride away, it couldn't be any more true. In other presentations, I like to talk about, what we're doing for fund development, whatever, but Brenda's on this call, and she's great at that and great at presenting it. But, we are closer than ever, but, like that step ladder, it's a little wobbly at the top. We need to continue to build the foundation, and, together we will end polio. There's a chance we'll do it by the end of 2023 with the last case, but if not, I know Rotarians will continue to be persistent, passionate, and really appreciate all that you do there in Hawaii, and that so many other Rotarians do around the world. So thank you, Roz, for inviting me. I plan to stay for the duration, and definitely through Brenda's presentation. Also, I'm looking forward to hearing the other presentation that you have tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. That was absolutely what we needed to hear. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I'm happy that you're going to stay. But I think we have some black coffee if you want some, but you have to be here to get it.
I hear that Kona coffee is good.
It's very, very good. But thank you so very much. Do we have any questions for Michael? I have one. How do you mentioned the elections of 2023. What kind of impression is that going to have on what's going on over there?
It's sometimes, there's power struggles for local control, but, the current prime minister, he actually, the very first time I went to Pakistan, Aziz, who's our chair over there, he was the very first person I met. He was the chief minister of one of the provinces then. His brother happened to be the then prime minister, but he could not have been more supportive of polio eradication since he become prime minister. He's had 3 meetings of specifically focused on polio, and has shown nothing but support. Imran Khan, the other guy who was the prime minister before, likewise, I've been to his private home 3 times, including having his dog sitting on my legs and being unable to move. And that just shows that he cares about Rotary. He cares, he's deeply committed, and you're sitting in the other major family in politics in the country is the Zardari Bhutto group, and some of you may remember Benazir Bhutto was shot, and it's accused that the current prime minister's family was behind it. But we're in rooms that all these parties are together despite their histories, and they're all committed to ending polio. In fact, Benazir Bhutto's aunt is the health minister in Sindh, the largest province, and she had a meeting this week on polio and she gave the first drops as part of the current National Immunization Day. So I really, the election, there are always problems. We usually see a slight spike in cases, but the main issue is people working together on the local level. And in the big bosses, the prime ministers and contenders for the prime minister all send a joint message that this is just like for Rotary, it's their top health priority in the country, and they've been acting that way. So that's been good.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Here's your opportunity. We've got the best of the best here with us this evening. Any questions? Sonia.
Since that case in New York really felt scary to us because it really hit close to home in the United States, you made the comment, you said this gentleman didn't go anywhere. You said polio came to him. Can you clarify and explain to us how this happened?
It's a big mystery. They look at, they test the virus, that it goes to a lab, and it originally was in Lahore, Pakistan. It was the same the virus that, you know, the genetics of it that was also in Jerusalem and London. So, you know, obviously someone else was spreading it around, or, you know, multiple people. And, you know, polio is, you know, very contagious. It's a lot like COVID. I was talking to my aunt today, and her husband, my uncle, had died about 3 weeks ago, and she was telling me all the people who got COVID who were at the wake and in the funeral. You know, and you know, polio is the same way. You know, you get gatherings and people spread out. In fact, I was even worried today. Had breakfast and a private meeting, and I sat immediately in back of the CDC director of the United States in Berlin, Rochelle Walensky, and the news came out that she got polio over the weekend, and I immediately sat down and took a test today. You know, it's just you never know, and you know it came to New York, and it is scary. You know, the health officials there seem to be taking it seriously, but hey, there's a woman who works in the UNICEF office in New York, but lives in Westchester County, which is just across the Hudson from where this is. And I said, "You see an uptick in activity there?" She said, "No." And, you know, and this is, you know, it's people need to take polio seriously. They need to take viruses seriously, and you know, it's there's just way too many people who you know, we've gotten report after report, you know, the last 5-6 years in Pakistan that people deeply regret their kids didn't get the vaccine. And, you know, they made the mistake of being anti-vaccine, listening to someone. And I'm talking about polio. I'm not getting into US politics, but, you know, at the same time, you know, vaccines work, and the polio vaccine works. And, you know, you know, we could show them number after number that shows that, you know, occasionally you do have some issues like you do with anything. But this New York one is, you know, it's not good. And we could very well see multiple cases in the United States spreading from that. And, you know, particularly it would be, you know, from the unvaccinated population.
Mike, I have a question. Rich Corson.
Hey, Rich.
Hi. You know, seeing that map of England with the low percentages of vaccinated people across that entire country, for the most part, makes me really wonder, what about in the United States? Do we have a handle on what percentage of the people in our country have been vaccinated for polio?
You know, the percentage overall is very high. Most kids get it before the age of 5, before they go to school. Many of the states require vaccinations with some very limited exemptions before kids go to school. But you know, there are pockets. Marin County, there was an article in the Times, New York Times this week that you know, reminding us a couple of years ago they had a really low vaccination rates, but whatever reason they've gone back up. You know, there's pockets of communities, and one of the things the US CDC, this CDC director Rochelle Walensky has done is they're really stepping up, encouraging officials in these communities with low vaccination rates to step up their vaccination program. And I don't know specifically if they're offering, you know, funding assistance to do that, but it wouldn't surprise me. But you know, that's where the danger is in these unvaccinated communities. Chances are, you know, they're in Hawaii. Most of your areas are probably, I don't know what your state laws are, but chances are most everyone is, you know, there's good vaccination rates. But you know, there's you know, even my own community, you know, people think there's all these refusals in Pakistan and Afghanistan. I looked at the numbers about 5 years ago, and the refusals were higher in my community than they were in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Just one of these places on the water, and people think that, you know, it's not going to happen to them. Well, they were, you know, fortunately, apparently the school health people must have talked to them, because, you know, our rates are now much better. But, you know, you just can't take these things for granted. You got to work with people. You know, you can't force people to do stuff, even when it's in their better interests. But, you know, it's important that they have people chat with them who they respect, and, you know, who understand. You know, I'm not a doctor. I just a Rotary volunteer who's, you know, works at this and learn a little bit. But, you know, to really have knowledgeable people talk to them is important. So yeah, the danger is there.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, Dick May, good presentation. First and foremost, I think there is a vulnerability in the US in many areas. You mentioned Marin County, which I visited recently, and that's a pretty well-to-do county. I think that anywhere that you have a pocket, and I'm not trying to be politically correct here, but anywhere you have a pocket of general vaccine resistance, you have the opportunity for polio to take, hold. And with polio, as with other viruses, a case or two may be the tip of the iceberg. Many people will not be symptomatic, but a few are going to be drastically affected. As a kid, many, many years ago, growing up in New England, I remember being told we needed to stay away from swimming pools and stuff until we got vaccinated because of the dread of this virus. And I'm afraid we've lost a bit of that in some areas and become a bit complacent. So I think our efforts also need to be turned a little bit inward at helping the reluctant to understand the value of becoming vaccinated.
No, I agree with you. And unfortunately, last year in COVID, the Rotary Board, I think, made a fairly strong statement that was pro-vaccine. And, I know, I came down with COVID once, and, I was damn thankful I'd gotten those vaccines, and, other individuals I know as well. So, yeah, but polio, yeah, if there's low vaccination rates, in pockets of the country, there's possibility. The other thing you said, I actually saw a graphic on the CDC website. The estimate now is for every one case identified, there's 200 people walking around with polio.
Yep.
There's only, one out of 200 that actually become paralyzed. So, yeah, it's, and the fact that, the polio virus is so spreadable, so contagious, polio could come back anyway. We pray that, but that's why it's so important to get rid of it. And we got to get rid of it at the source right now. We got to shut off the engine in Pakistan and Afghanistan. That's where Rotary is, the committees that allocate the funds that all of us donate. That's where they're really focusing now, is shutting down the engine.
Good.
Thanks, Michael. Really appreciate you taking the time and going through this with us. Thank you so very much. And please do hang around. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to go on mute.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Look forward to Brenda. Good luck, Brenda.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Brenda Cressy, my good friend. Brenda joined Rotary in 1989 in Templeton, California, USA, where she served as district governor of District 5340 in 2001-2002. She is currently a member of the Rotary Club of something Maine, Quin, Queek, in Rotary District 7780, and the retired CEO of Office Support Systems, a communications business in Maine. Brenda has served in several key roles for Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation, and recently completed a 4-year term, 2017 to 2021, as Rotary Foundation trustee. In 2018, she was honored as the first woman vice chair and first woman chair of the Rotary Foundation. Several of Brenda's assignments have focused on fund development for the Rotary Foundation, specifically in the areas of peace and polio eradication. Currently, she is the vice chair of the Fund Development Committee, as well as the chair for the Environment Major Gifts Initiative. Brenda has seen and experienced firsthand how our gifts to the Rotary Foundation greatly impact the lives of others, and how these gifts will someday bring peace, understanding, and equity to all persons around the world. Brenda, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Roz.
And it is past 8 o'clock. It's past 8 o'clock, which is your bedtime.
Yes, it is. Well, good evening, everyone. And thanks, Roz, for the invitation to be here tonight. I'm so honored to be on this Zoom platform with not only Mike, but Tenyat. I'm really anxious to hear what she has to say. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Um, it's just so wonderful for me to see so many familiar faces on the screen tonight. Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
Aloha. You know, I have been so privileged to work closely with a lot of leaders in your district and great Rotarians over the years. And if there's one thing I know, it's that you're all dedicated and you're all passionate and you're very generous, especially when it comes to supporting polio eradication. Because of your incredible financial support and those of you who may have participated on these national immunization days around the globe, I think you really lead the way on both the national and international stage. And I say that with greatest sincerity. So on behalf of the Rotary Foundation trustees, myself, and especially the children of the world, we cannot thank you enough for this high level support and commitment each and every year. So when I look at the faces on this screen, I can also see that we have a lot of foundation supporters here. Paul Harris Society, Polio Plus Society, major donors, Bequest Society members, and on and on. And so again, I thank all of you for that as well. I was so pleased when Roz asked me to join you tonight and to be with Mike and to hear his updates. But she asked me to talk about a couple of things. And one is to talk about the legacy of Rotary and its work with the eradication of polio, but also some exciting news about the new global initiative for the Polio Plus Society. And so I'm going to talk about the Polio Plus Society first. So recently, as the vice chair of the Fund Development Committee of the trustees, I proposed that the trustees officially endorse a district-led Global Plus Society initiative. And I'm really pleased to say that the trustees did fully endorse the refresh of the Polio Plus Society. And they've also agreed to provide us with enhanced reporting and additional support to help all of our districts be successful. So what does district-led mean, you might ask? Well, Rotary has over 530 districts in more than 200 countries with a good number of different currencies and challenges. So when I was presented with the idea to lead such an initiative, I felt it was really important that it be grassroots, a way for individual districts to set their own criteria to encourage membership into the society, because we have a critical funding need. Each and every year we see it. I know, Mike, I'm always biting my nails trying to figure out if we're going to meet that $50 million. And it's not easy. But I know too that there are so many Rotarians who are really passionate and compassionate about seeing the end of polio. So I'm thrilled to share that we're already receiving a high interest from districts worldwide who want to start or even refresh what they might have in place already for Polio Plus Society. Because we've been able in a very short time to find many best practices, what other districts are doing and using. And we're going to share all of that information, provide samples of our examples of what other districts are doing and how their success is coming to fruition. For example, some districts have already looked at creating different funding levels. We can use the reports, and these districts have looked at their reports and they're already seeing that many members are giving $250 or more, even up to $1,000 a year to support polio eradication. Can you imagine? Who would have known that But this is a fact, and I think that there are many Rotarians who are willing to make that kind of commitment. So these districts are looking at creating levels, and I'm really, really pleased with that. So why is the initiative important? Simply this: because the world at large continues to change. We've certainly experienced this over the last 3 years, haven't we, with COVID? Now we've seen the war in Ukraine, the floods in Pakistan, and the resurgence that we just heard about in the different areas around the world. And especially important for us on this screen is we have it right here in the US. But for me personally, I joined Rotary 33 years ago, and I joined because I learned that Rotary was involved in looking at eradicating polio worldwide. And I've shared this story before, many of you probably heard it, but when I was a little girl, my neighbor friend, my girlfriend at the time, came down with polio, and I never saw her again. And to be honest, I never really thought about her until the day that my sponsor Rotarian told me that Rotary was trying to eradicate polio. Brought me right back to that day when I found out from my mom that my friend passed away. But so little did I know when I joined Rotary, that invitation was going to change my world too. Today is World Polio Day. So let's take a look now at Rotary's legacy that I mentioned earlier, and what it means to each one of us as we continue to work towards that end game, the eradication of polio. The dictionary tells us that a legacy is something that's handed down from the past, from an ancestor, for example. By this definition, we think of a legacy gift given at the end of life, an inheritance, an estate gift. And we may associate legacy with the end rather than the beginning. But today I want to expand on that definition. And I want you to think about legacy as something so much more, something really big. Our legacy is a combination of moments shared, decisions made, and actions taken. Our legacy is shaped by our achievements, the risk we have taken, the mistakes from which we have learned. Our legacy, as our president, Jen, often says, are our stories. There are values and there are passions. We each have our own unique and individual story with their own twists and turns, highs and lows, upsets and triumphs. And our stories are really much more than facts and figures or a series of events. They paint a picture. They paint a picture of who we are, why we do what we do, and what we hope to achieve. And so the story of the Rotary Foundation, what we understand to be our legacy. Isn't it the story of how we use data and investment strategies to make a difference in our communities? The foundation stories describe the way everyday people, you and I, in nearly every single country, have come together and made their good words good deeds. How men and women, young and old, have chosen hope over despair, action over apathy. In other words, our foundation story is your story. Our accomplishments, progress, and trajectory as an organization are defined by your courage and your dedication. If we imagined the foundation's legacy as a tapestry, each Rotarian and supporter represents a thread in that tapestry. Those threads are woven tightly together, bound by a shared vision of a polio-free world, by the goal of clean water for all, and the belief in the power of peace. Every single thread matters. If one thread were missing, or if our tapestry became frayed and tattered, it would unravel. A hole would appear and grow larger and larger. Every story is integral to the fabric of our organization. In capturing our foundation's legacy, today's program tells the story of how Rotarians and supporters like you have come together in cooperation and have asked, how can I help? And like all stories, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Ours began in 1905 when we celebrated the first service project in Chicago. We jump ahead to 1985 when we launched the Polio Plus program, the first initiative to tackle global eradication through a mass vaccination of children. 3 years later, in '88, Rotary was called upon by the World Health Organization to not just control, but to eradicate polio. So as you know, we answered with an emphatic yes. The decision was the catalyst for the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Since this time, because of the work and advocacy of our partners and Rotarians like you, this initiative has now grown into a vast international effort. Once a widely feared disease, we're now on the brink of eradication. And together we are writing the final chapter of that polio virus. Earlier, Mike shared a lot of great information on where we are today. And honestly, every time I hear Mike provide these updates to a trustee meeting or on calls like these, I am so proud to be a Rotarian. I hope you are too. I'm proud of how far we've come. I'm proud that we haven't quit. I'm proud of how we were able to use the polio infrastructure for COVID. And I'm especially proud of the level of passion and your personal commitment that has brought us to this day. A day when we can raise more awareness about the need to finish the job, but also about how far we have come. We are so grateful to the support we've been blessed to have from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I'm so excited to hear from Taniyat. The support we have received has truly bolstered our efforts and certainly has inspired Rotarians around the globe to take advantage of that 2-to-1 challenge. And this is Rotary's #1 priority. How can we not take advantage of this wonderful gift that they have given us? We cannot thank the Gates Foundation enough for their belief and their trust in Rotary and the need to put this one health issue behind us so they can attend to so many more health issues so we can address those. So in the end, there continues to be a great need to finish the job, and there's a critical funding gap, and that's why I'm here tonight. To share our legacy, to look at the positives. We can't look back and only say, oh no, here we are. We have to look at how far we've come. So I'm putting my fund development hat back on, and I'd like to invite each of you to join the Polio Plus Society. Roz has the application right in her hand. I know that. And I understand that a lot of you have stepped up already. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. As our longest standing and most ambitious effort, the eradication of polio is tantamount to the Rotary Foundation's legacy. And to those of you to whom this program speaks, I thank you for your contributions. I thank you for your support to keep our promise to the children of the world. So let's not imagine a polio-free world. Let's just make it happen. Thank you. Thank you.
Brenda, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. if you talk this way when you're sleeping, I hate to see you when you're fully awake. But that was great. It touched every level of what I wanted to hear and what I'm sure all of us wanted to hear. So thank you for sharing that. Do we have any questions for Brenda? Are you guys awake out there? It's early here.
I have a question. Everyone
Yes.
raise your hand that you're part of Polio Plus Society.
Well,
Oh, wow, look at that. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And the others will be before the end of the week.
I'll bet they will.
We're going to work on them and make sure it happens because I think now they understand the value and the importance of it. So I can't thank you enough. And I hope you hang around. But
I
now
will.
I'm
If
going
Mike's
to,
staying around, I'll stay around.
both of you stay around. I'm going to play something special for both of you toward the end. But now it gives me great pleasure where it might be late in Maine. It's not that bad in Seattle. So I think you're only 3 hours away from us. But Kinyak Khan is currently a program officer at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where she focuses on eradicating polio in Afghanistan, one of the last two endemic countries in the world. Prior to this, she worked in Pakistan, where she led and supported projects related to polio eradication, routine immunization strengthening, COVID-19 response, and building basic health. King Yak, thank you for being with us this evening, and we are very, very excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Roz, and good evening, everyone. It is an honor to join you all today, and to follow up with these amazing conversations that Mike and Brenda started off. It is a privilege and an honor really to share the stage with you today, to share this time. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Kathy, for this wonderful purple bracelet. I love it. I feel like I'm an honorary Rotarian as well, so I'm feeling the love. Let me see if I can share my screen, and take you through the, oh, there we go. Of course, this is when it's gonna act up. 1 second. Ah. Well, just as my PowerPoint is restarting, I'll just quickly give you a quick introduction. So as Roz mentioned, my name is Dehniat Khan. I work at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. My focus is on Afghanistan, which is one of the last 2 endemic countries in the world, which means that we still have active cases of wild polio virus. A lot of my job focuses on just creating this range of activities to restrict the spread of the virus. So from keeping a close eye on our systems to detect the virus, to coordinating and running effective campaigns. I think constantly about how we can use innovations like geospatial technology or mobile phones during polio campaigns to make them more effective. And my favorite part of my job is to also think about how to integrate gender into our polio eradication efforts, especially in tough areas like Afghanistan. As Roz mentioned, I've been at the foundation for just about 1 year. Before coming to the foundation, I was working in Pakistan, partially on polio eradication, also on immunization, on efforts like COVID-19, improving maternal and child health. And I got to see firsthand a lot of what happens if we fail to eradicate, or sort of what the real life consequences are for people who contract polio and are paralyzed. But so it seems like my PowerPoint is working now. So over the next few minutes, I'll spend some time talking about the progress we've made in polio eradication, discuss some of the recent outbreaks, some that have hit on our own soil here in the US, and then I'll talk about what we do to stop and prevent these outbreaks from happening again. I want to take a moment to note the impact that COVID-19 has had and continues to have on all of us personally. For the polio program, COVID-19 disrupted all immunization activities. So while we figured out social distancing, hand washing, masking, and vaccines in some of the most underserved communities in the world, polio program staff across the world were repurposed to support the COVID-19 efforts. And this was no small task. My hope is that today we can take a moment to celebrate the major accomplishments that the polio program has made throughout the years, even during the pandemic. And the celebration first begins by thanking all of you. And I'd like to share a video that highlights just how sincere our gratitude to Rotary is.
The sound is not coming through.
Oh, thank you for flagging that. I think Naomi taught me how to fix this. There we go.
Because of Rotarians, millions of children around the world are protected from paralysis today. We're proud to be your partner in this fight. Thanks to your leadership and the countless volunteer hours, we are closer than ever to eradicating polio. Thank you for inspiring Melinda and I and millions of others to create a world where no child has to suffer from polio ever again. Together, we will achieve a polio-free world.
I've watched this video so many times, and every time I get emotional. And I hope you do too. I feel very determined and committed to finish this job, and it is thanks to your leadership. Coming from Pakistan, it's very common to see children and adults who have gotten polio, and how that disability and paralysis effectively sentences them to a lifetime of poverty and missed opportunities. So that's the commitment that drives me to ensure that our next generations never have to see this virus again. They never have to suffer through this again. And I know that this is a cause that so many of you have so passionately championed for so long. And although you're all polio experts and have been working on this much, much longer than I have, I do want to take some time to set the context for the journey that we've made. Polio is an ancient disease. In the 1900s, scientists started to develop theories of how the poliovirus was transmitted. This then led to the development of treatment options like the iron lung, where children would essentially live in while they were fighting the infection. Then finally, in the 1950s and 1960s, the vaccines were developed, and they were a game changer for preventing paralysis, but really only for part of the world. When we look right here at home in the US, in the early 1950s at its peak, we had more than 50,000 cases of polio each year. Polio was especially prevalent in children and young adults in the prime of their life, regardless of socioeconomic status. And I'm sure many of you remember just how scary those times are, especially hearing Brenda's story from her childhood as well. For the rest of the world, the vaccine was also just not available. It's only in 1988 that the WHO adopted the resolution to eradicate polio. And many of you know we've already eradicated one disease in human history before that, and that's smallpox. We're so close to eradicating the second disease that will have a huge impact on all the next generations to come. And I'll speak more about this in just a bit. So to zoom out on a map, in 1985, when Rory began the fight against polio, 125 countries were affected. There were 3 types of polio, and all 3 types were present across the globe with about 350,000 cases each year. That's about 40 children getting paralyzed every hour. And then, as I mentioned, and I remember Mike also talked about this, the GPI was established in 1988. At that time, there were 4 key partners. There was Rotary, CDC, UNICEF, and WHO. The Gates Foundation joined in 2007, and then our newest partner, Gavi, joined in 2019. And so now there are 6 core partners. And for the last 33 years, there have been over 20 million volunteers vaccinating children, about 17 billion invested in this program, with involvement from 200 countries to vaccinate over 2.5 billion children to meet a single goal of a polio-free world. And like Mike said, these sometimes seem like incredibly large numbers, right? It's crazy to think about 2.5 billion children or $17 billion. But it's through efforts like yours, where bit by bit, every $10, every dollar counts, we've already achieved so much. And so this year, we have a lot to celebrate from our humble beginnings in 1988. We've gone from 125 endemic countries to just 2. We've gone from 3 types of polio to just 1. And we've gone from 350,000 cases of polio down to about 26 as of yesterday. So these are big, big wins. And in 2020, in the middle of the global pandemic, we celebrated a massive accomplishment. The African region was certified indigenous wild poliovirus free. That means that the 47 African nations belonging to the region stopped the transmission of the wild poliovirus. In 1966, the great African leader Nelson Mandela launched the Kick Polio Out of Africa campaign with Rotary International support. And that dream was finally realized just 2 years ago. And that's such a huge moment for public health, particularly during one of the hardest times for the world globally. Here on the bottom left, you can see that we all celebrated in true pandemic fashion with masks and on a Zoom call. After that, we deployed a new strategy to eradicate polio by 2026. It is a bold goal, but together we are ready for the challenge. And at this point, if you're following the news closely, you'll probably be looking at me with squinty eyes, with lots of questions. How can we be so close to eradicating polio when we've had a case in the US? What about all these outbreaks in Africa? And what about Pakistan and Afghanistan? So let me take a moment to discuss where we are today. What you're looking at is a slide that we use every week to review the epidemiology of the virus. So today I'm also being sneaky and making you all part of the polio team. So that recruitment is done, Roz, Brenda. So the virus is actually very, very smart. And typically we use a weakened version of it in our oral polio drops that are given in most of the developing world because it is affordable and it's easy to give. Well, when the environment is just right, this weakened virus can live in under-immunized communities for a long time, and it can evolve and revert, or as the scientists call it, into this variant virus that can cause paralysis. So you remember there are 3 types of wild poliovirus. So there are 3 types of these variants. And here it's type 2 that is the most problematic. So where you can see here by just looking at how many green dots there are on the map, it's a huge public health challenge to manage. In 2020, there were over 20 countries that had polio outbreaks and over 1,000 children paralyzed. And that was a really tough situation. Today, we are down to just about 14 countries with under 400 children paralyzed. And that's still a large number, and we won't settle till the number of children is down to 0. And we're making progress towards that goal in a very challenging environment. Like Mike mentioned, there's a lot of vaccine skepticism, there's challenging political climates, there's natural disasters, there's humanitarian crises. And then we talk about the case in the US, which occurred in Rockland County, New York, where a young man who was under-immunized contracted polio, and he was paralyzed. So I'm not going to talk too much about that since Mike covered it pretty well, but there have been no other cases in the US so far. And these traces of virus in the sewage in neighboring counties basically means that the variant virus is living in these communities. And this can be really worrying. And on the individual level, the message is pretty clear. If you're up to date with your polio vaccine, you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your community. And if you aren't really, you just make time to get up to date and talk to people around you. Make everybody a polio champion. This case in New York is also just a very harsh reminder that polio is just a plane ride away. And until it is finished in everywhere around the world, there's always a chance that it can make its way closer. So we really do need to finish this job. So now let's talk about how we do it, which is a little bit more technical, a little bit more detailed, which is sort of the crux of my job. So step 1 is we find the virus by investigating each and every child that is suspected to be paralyzed from polio. We also test sewage for virus so we can detect and respond to it before it has a chance to paralyze children. We use detailed planning and monitoring tools to ensure that we know we're not missing any children during a vaccination campaign or through routine immunization services. Many of you have already been part of National Immunization Days and are very aware of all of these tools. And then we vaccinate through any means we can. Now, if the virus is smart, it can revert to a variant form and cause paralysis. And this is where we are smarter. So following the vision and the leadership of our own Bill Gates, we worked with a consortium of partners over the last several years to develop a new version of the oral polio drops, which doesn't allow the virus to mutate to its variant form. This new vaccine is now called the Novel Oral Polio Vaccine Type 2, or NOPV2 for short. And repeated studies have shown that it is safe and it is effective and it doesn't revert into a harmful variant form. And the pandemic has really made us all vaccine experts. So you all know that receiving emergency use of a vaccine is a very rigorous process. And around just this time last year, NOPV2 became the first vaccine to be listed under WHO's emergency use listing pathway. And actually helped pave the way for other life-saving vaccines to receive the same designation. And today, the GPI has given about 500 million doses of NOPV2 in an effort to protect communities. And this is another huge moment for public health and the polio program to get that kind of scale in just under a year. And the biggest credit really here must be given to frontline health workers who are out in the communities giving this vaccine. I guess we saw in our president's video as well, and in these pictures, even extreme weather like flooding, security concerns, sometimes threats to their lives, that won't hold these vaccinators back. And we ensure that communities are engaged to kick polio out of their homes. This is the act and the art of immunization, which is really saving lives. And most of these health workers are women. In Pakistan and Afghanistan, Mike briefly talked about, the operating environment is hugely complex. All these women you see in this picture are locally recruited. They're based from the communities they work in. The dedication and persistence that they have shown has really improved the trust of the program within the vaccine. They know their communities better than anybody else. They help the vaccine reach children in the most remote areas. And each and every woman in this photo has faced harsh conditions. It's faced extreme temperatures, long distances, vaccine skepticism. They work tirelessly to stop polio for good. From knocking on doors during polio campaigns to educating communities in the market, they do whatever it takes to get the job done. They're truly, truly inspiring figures. And we know that Rotary is committed to getting the job done too. You all have a hugely influential role in the GPI. Rotarians sit on every committee within the GPI where decisions are made. Rotary International works closely with the Polio Plus program for fundraising. Many US-based volunteers like yourselves have traveled out to volunteer during polio campaigns. In one of the pictures on the right, you see Rotary International supporting a vaccination post at a border crossing area in Pakistan and Afghanistan. The foundation has just made a new partnership with the Rotary Action Group for Family Health and AIDS Prevention, where this work will now integrate polio-specific activities and vaccination into Rotary Family Health Days in areas that are high risk for polio. And of course, we can't forget to mention the incredible amount of funding Rotarians have mobilized globally for the polio eradication effort. Without this support, the program just wouldn't be able to operate. So, not to forget this amazing matching program where the foundation matches 2-to-1 every dollar raised by Rotary up to about 50 million a year. Mike already talked about this. It was a fantastic event where in Berlin we raised a lot of funding, we raised a lot of commitment, and really, really, you were the heart and the soul of the polio eradication effort, and we're proud to be partners through it all. So with that last big thank you, I'll stop my presentation and welcome your thoughts and your comments. Thank you so much.
No, we thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that information. That was excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions at all?
Roz Dick May, I'm sorry, I'm never quiet, I guess, but first of all, that was an excellent and inspirational presentation. I got to tell you what I think about that. I'm a Polio Plus Society member, but after hearing that, I'll double my contribution tomorrow. Now, let me tell you why. You may not have spent a lot of time in Pakistan, and I have not, but I have worked with the Pakistanis a bit. Brilliant, hardworking folks, just exactly like you and I are. Nature has dealt them a tough hand this year in their fight against polio, with an immense flooding that is likely to be a real challenge for the efforts there. In India, their large neighbor, has been free of polio since 2011, but in the late 1990s, they weren't. And I went to India to a conference en route to a multinational conference in Sri Lanka. And while there, I went to the train station in Delhi en route to another destination. And while there with my Indian hosts, I saw young people, probably 10 to 12 years old, with tin cups begging, dragging their withered legs behind them. And I asked about that. And the answer was that they were crippled by polio. And because they were no longer able to work, their families abandoned them at the train station. The answer was they begged for a living or they starved to death. I don't think people anywhere around the world are any different in terms of what we do. But what happened was, because they were abandoned, society turned their head away from them and left them to their own devices. Some of us will go on polio eradication programs, but all of us can avoid turning our heads away by donating generously to help people, like that brave group of women shown in Taniyat Khan's video, who will risk their lives and endure hardship to ensure that the young are vaccinated and all are vaccinated. So let's help. Thanks.
Thank Dick. We appreciate that. Thanks, everyone. Are there any other questions? Tanyak, that was excellent. Thank you for being with us and joining us in the bracelet that Kathy Lum made. And Kathy, thank you for all you do to help us here. She has that bracelet out as one of her fundraising items for World Polio Day in Polio Now. So you can go on the her site and purchase them. I think I went on and purchased 4 the other day. So if you want to show it again, so everybody can see it, and just call it your good luck charm. Okay. Thank you so very much. Okay, I am going to now show you a video. I share a video with you from Mr. Gates. So I'm gonna share my screen and find it. Can you see it?
I'm here in New York, and stunningly, polio has paralyzed a patient here. The sewage system is right here below me. We decided not to take you down there and show you sewage sampling, but in fact, very likely, if we did that right now, we'd have a positive test. And so it's here. The United States has gone many years with no polio virus, nobody being paralyzed. And so it was pretty shocking. We didn't really expect it to show up here. They've declared a health emergency to encourage people to get vaccinated and stop the spread of polio. The Gates Foundation has polio eradication as one of our very top priorities. And we have great partners like Rotary. In order to understand the polio work, I've been to India, Nigeria. Most recently, I was in Pakistan. Pakistan and Afghanistan are the last 2 countries that have never gotten to 0. And now, sadly, they've had these incredible floods, which are disrupting all their health care, food, and so many things. We're helping out with emergency relief, but it's going to push back getting rid of polio. The fact we see polio here for the first time in a long time, although surprising, that's the way it is. As long as we don't get rid of this virus everywhere, it can always come back. But if we get to 0, it'll never happen again. We and our partners are very committed to get this thing done.
Thank you. That's what it's about. And I really appreciate him taking the time and making that video and making it available for us to share. It was presented at the World Polio Day activity in Seattle on Thursday evening. And immediately I knew it was something I wanted to share with all of you. So fantastic video. When we talk about the service that we give as Rotarians, Heather Mueller of the Rotary Club of Maui shared an incident that happened with one of her traveling friends. She said when traveling with her daughter to Italy, a member of the Rotary Club of Maui, Bridget Bungard, by chance, met Area Higgins Steele. Area is serving in Amman, Jordan, with the World Health Organization. Area described one of her recent projects, which was to be a part of the vaccinating of 8 million children in Sudan. She expressed grateful thanks for the Rotarians in the world because she knew how much Rotary had supported the major attempts to eradicate polio from the face of the planet, Earth. Let's imagine a world where polio is no longer. And she did send us a video of it, and I'd like to share it at this time with you. One moment. I think I need to stop the share. Oops. Okay, 1 second.
Hi,
Can
my
you see
name
it?
is Ariel Higgins-Steele, and I work for the World Health Organization in the regional office in Amman, Jordan. And I have met recently one of your very enthusiastic members of Rotary Hawaii and learned about your drive this month. So since it's a very long journey and also a very different time zone, I'm unfortunately just joining by video and wanted to send a bit of perspective from here from Amman. So we are working in the regional office as part of the GPI initiative to support countries in polio eradication efforts. We serve 22 countries in the region, and that ranges from support on their poliovirus surveillance to ensure that it is sensitive and detecting any low-level transmission that may occur or may be imported into the country. We also are, in the cases where there is a positive detection of polio, are working with the country, with the ministries of health and other partners to figure out the best, most appropriate response. And sometimes that is an immunization campaign using one of our low-cost, highly effective tools, which is vaccination. I'm the focal point in the regional office for Sudan. I was there a few months ago as part of an assessment team. And with the good news, and this is when it's just fantastic to see all of the efforts that have come together. Sudan unfortunately had a polio outbreak in 2020, and they responded quickly with 2 rounds of national polio campaigns where they vaccinated over 8 million children, so giving 2 vaccination opportunities. And the wonderful, wonderful news is that we were able to confirm with a multidisciplinary team in August that there is no further detection of this outbreak and that it could be considered closed. So even in this post-COVID world where we've had many setbacks, when there's a good quality campaign, as we saw in Sudan, we are able to respond to an outbreak and to get even closer to our goal of eradication. So sending warmest regards from Amman, Jordan, from almost the other side of the world. We're all in this together. Thank you so much for all of your work in supporting polio, and sending my best from here in the regional office in WHO. Take care. Have a great event this month.
Very nice. Thank you. And thank all of you. It's getting pretty close to that time of the evening when Brenda and Michael will turn into pumpkins. So I want to just end by saying thanks all of you. Thanks. I just want to end by saying thanks all of you for being here this evening, giving your time, giving yourself, and for the contributions to Polio Plus. I know that will come in starting this evening and tomorrow. So thank you. But we all together, we can do it. Together, we can make anything happen because I know we believe. And I'd like for you to listen to this and think about how together we can make anything happen as soon as I share my screen. Can you see it? No, 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 wait.
For every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows.
Yes, no?
I believe that somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the way. I believe. Oh, I believe. I believe above the storm, the smallest prayer can still be heard. I believe that someone in that great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know I believe. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know I believe. I believe.
That was one of our local Rotarians, Nicole Lemus of the Rotary Club of Honolulu Sunset. So, so are there any questions about this evening? I see, Gemma, is your hand up? No? Yes?
No, I didn't put my hand up. I was adjusting my iPad.
Okay. But
Hey,
thank you
Rod?
all. Yes,
Roz, I have a question.
yes.
How are
That-
you just so wonderful and great at putting these things together?
Because I believe. I believe in all of you. And I believe in that those amazing presentations we had this evening. And then I never have to ask twice. They always say yes. And that's the kind of people like that Mike is, and people like Brenda, and people like Rotarians from all over are. You never say no. You always make a way to make it happen. It's well after midnight where they are, and it's past the bewitching hour here that I promise to be out of here. But before we go any further, if you can see the screen, can you? Okay, this is what we have created through Raise for Rotary in order to make your contributions. So right now we have teams made up, and we have a team for Rotary District 5000, for Metro Rotary, for West Honolulu, and for East Honolulu. If you go,
my boy, he requires that I give him attention.
if you go to
He was trying to
the
be
site
free.
we've set up, you can go in and choose your club, your team, or you can add a team. For instance, if you go to, let's look at the Rotary one here. Click on it, and if it opens up, Naomi, you're driving?
What did you want me to click? The join the team?
No. Let's go to the one that says that one, the second one. Yes, right there. And everything is there ready for you to make a contribution. It's filled out for you in advance. Tonight, you can go there and make this the way you enter a day and make a contribution to Polio Plus. Any questions at all? Thank you guys so much for being here, for being a part, for staying awake, for being with us, and for being so amazing in this district. I am so very, very proud to be a part of it, and I'm so very, very proud of you. We do have a contingency of people at one of the restaurants there, the ones that's making a lot of noise. So they're there. So we thank them for being there, even though they don't look like they're paying attention. But I'm sure they're having a good time. Hey, guys, eating guys, the eating people. Hello. So that shows that they're not listening. But anyway, thanks everyone. Enjoy your evening. And if you have any questions at any time, you know how to reach me. Send me an email, give me a call, text me. I'm here for you. Thank you so very much. And aloha.
Aloha, everyone. Good
Aloha,
night.
everyone. Mahalo for the amazing presentations.
Thank you. Good night.
Aloha.
Good job,
Beautiful job.
Roz.
Thank you, everybody.
You
Great
guys are
seeing you,
amazing.
Kelly.
Thank you.